There are creators out there making jaw-dropping shots and transitions with their 360 cameras that get tons of views. I'm going to show you how to shoot and edit 5 attention-grabbing clips so you can copy them and wow your audience. I'm also going to reveal the one mistake most creators make with clips like these that will take them to the next level. Let's get into it. The ground swoop is great for connecting different places you've been, either throughout the day or while traveling, for example. It has a movement to it that's based enough in reality that it catches you off guard when it suddenly reveals a new location. Using the selfie stick, start with the X4 close to the ground. Walk forward at a steady pace while lifting it up high for a moment before bringing it back down towards the ground. Then repeat the same moves walking backwards. This will give you flexibility later when editing. Do this in multiple locations and be mindful not to hit the ground with your camera. Load your clip into Insta360 Studio. Move the playhead to where the camera is lowest to the ground and add a keyframe. Choose De-warp. Rotate the clip 90 degrees to the left, then 90 degrees down towards the ground. Hit play until the camera is up high. Pause and create another keyframe. Reset both axes you had previously changed back to 0 so the clip is looking straight ahead. Press play again until the camera starts to move towards the ground. Press pause and add another keyframe. Play again until the camera is right above the ground and add another keyframe. Rotate the clip 90 degrees to the right, then 90 degrees down towards the ground again. Click on the thin yellow line connecting each of the keyframes and choose the fade in, fade out icon to smooth out each of the transitions. Your clip should now look like this, turning right as it swoops up, revealing the location, and then turning right again as it swoops back down to the ground. Now load your exported clips into any video editor on 2 different tracks, overlapping the end and the beginning. Now manually fade out the first one and fade in the second one. I find manually adjusting the fade in and out points this way to be easier than simply adding a crossfade transition. Now play it back and see how it looks. If the transition doesn't quite feel right, keep fine-tuning where they overlap until it feels like one smooth transition. You can also play around with adding motion blur and speed ramping to accentuate this effect, but it's not needed to create this amazing ground swoop transition. The FPV Drone Shot. If you're in a place that doesn't allow them, or you just don't own one, you can use your 360 camera to do some pretty convincing FPV shots using your short or long selfie stick. To get a feel for the physics of this, it might help to watch some videos of FPV drones flying first. This is the unedited shot with my 360 camera on the short selfie stick moving it close by tree branches as they pass by. I'm riding my one wheel, but you could also do this on a bike or a skateboard or even jogging. Create a keyframe at the beginning, and I like to choose the ultra field of view for this. Press play, then pause it when it looks like the drone would normally be turning. Create another keyframe and turn the drone left, then tilt it to the left. This is because FPV drones tilt in the direction they turn. This will give it more realism. Press play, then pause it again when the drone looks like it would be turning to the right to avoid the wall. Create another keyframe and turn the drone to the right, then tilt it to the right. From here, you keep repeating this process until you've made it all the way through the run. You can always go back and fine-tune the turns and tilts, and even where you've placed the keyframes until it looks like footage from an FPV drone. Now go back and click on the yellow lines connecting each keyframe and select the fade in, fade out icon. This will smooth out every transition between each of the keyframes you've made. The portal transition is a variation of the ground swoop. Rather than staying above ground level, you turn right into it and pop out the other side into a new location, just like a portal. Using the selfie stick, start with the X4 close to the ground, lift it up high for a moment before bringing it back down towards the ground. Do this in multiple locations and be mindful not to hit the ground with your camera. Load your clip into Insta360 Studio. Move the playhead to where the camera is low to the ground and add a keyframe. Choose De-warp. Rotate the clip 90 degrees to the left. Hit play until the camera is up high. Pause again and create another keyframe. Reset the last change you made to 0 so the clip is looking straight ahead and level. Press play again until the camera starts to move back down towards the ground. Pause and add another keyframe. Play again until the camera is right above the ground and add another keyframe. Rotate the clip 90 degrees to the right. Click on the thin yellow lines connecting each of the keyframes and choose the fade in, fade out icon to smooth out each of the transitions. Now load your exported clips into any video editor on 2 different tracks, overlapping the end and the beginning. Manually fade out the first one and fade in the second one. I find manually adjusting the fade in and out points this way to be easier than simply adding a crossfade transition. If the transition doesn't quite feel right, keep fine-tuning where they overlap until it feels like one smooth transition. The Dolly Zoom is a crazy-looking effect that gives you the feeling of somehow moving forwards and backwards at the same time. This effect is achieved by moving the camera in the opposite direction that you're zooming. This means that if you're moving forward with the camera, you zoom out at the same time. Or if you're moving backwards with the camera, you zoom in at the same time. This is the unedited version of my 360 camera on the short selfie stick. I'm riding my one wheel, but you could also be riding a bike or a skateboard or even jogging. Move your playhead to where you want the Dolly Zoom to start and add a keyframe. You'll see that D-Warp is the most zoomed in field of view, and Mega is the most wide field of view. We want to start zoomed in, so choose D-Warp for this keyframe. Now press play and pause it again when you want the Dolly Zoom to end. I find roughly 5 seconds works well. Create another keyframe, and this time choose Mega. Now play the video from the first keyframe and watch the craziness unfold. The Selfie Transition is another fun one for connecting different places you've been, and all it takes is a little planning ahead. Using the selfie stick, film yourself slowly rotating while in different locations. Make sure you always turn in the same direction and at the same speed, and try to keep the camera at roughly the same height and distance for each shot. Load your clips into Insta360 Studio. You'll notice that when I press play, the camera doesn't stay facing me. We need to fix that first. So I bring the playhead back to where I want the clip to start. Create a keyframe and then select D-Warp. We want to try and keep my head in the same place the entire time. So I put it right in the middle and make the top of my head touch the rule of thirds line right here. Now press play and then pause after it does roughly a quarter rotation. Turn the camera until you're located in the same place on the screen again, centered and head touching the rule of thirds line. Create a keyframe. Repeat this process until you've done roughly 1 full rotation. When you're finished, this is what it'll look like. Repeat the same steps for your other clips. Now load your exported clips into any video editor. Play the first clip for a few seconds, then pause when you want it to transition to the next clip. From here, I'd like to add speed ramping to the parts that will overlap. I use DaVinci Resolve, so if you use something else, the method for speed ramping may be a little bit different, but this feature is available in most video editors. For DaVinci Resolve, select Command R, then create a speed point and drag the end of the clip until it's roughly at 800%. I then right-click and select Real-Time Curve. I click on the point I made and select the Curve tool. Now the speed will ramp up from normal to roughly 800% instead of being instantaneous. I then grab my next clip and add the same speed ramp but to the beginning of the clip instead of the end. Finally, I overlap the end of clip 1 and the beginning of clip 2, making a fade into the beginning of clip 2. Play it back and see how it looks, and if necessary, adjust where they overlap until it feels like one smooth transition. Now, what's the number one mistake most creators make with clips like these? I've been teasing it through the whole video. Which of these feels more engaging to you? This or this? This or this? It's sound. Notice how each of these environments has a different sound to go along with it. Notice how each transition has a whoosh effect. Notice how the drone shot includes the sound of an FPV drone. I added these things to heighten the experience, and it works. Video without sound falls flat in comparison to video with sound effects. Sound makes movement and locations come to life and feel far more believable and engaging. Have you ever watched a movie with the sound off and noticed how much more phony it feels? Don't make that mistake with your videos. A great resource for getting high-quality sound effects and music is Epidemic Sound. I've created a link in the description that's going to get you a 7-day free trial so you can try it out yourself and bring your videos to life. Now grab your camera and go make some magic.